Welcome. It's our final segment here for Focus Africa. And today we talk Davos. Let's find out what it gave us. 2026 saw a very big speech. We'll talk about it. Global leadership conversations shifted over the week. In a keynote that sets the tone, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke on cooperation, economics, resilience, and rebuilding trust in global systems. For Africa, the question is clear. Is the continent shaping the agenda, or is it reacting to it? From technology to governance and also culture and diplomacy, Africa's seat at the table is evolving. Africa is becoming that table. Joining us now to discuss this, Temilade Aladeokin, UNESCO Youth Ambassador for Culture and Peace. Thank you very much for joining us. Temi, I can call you Temi now because I know we're related somehow. Temi, good to have you here. Let's first start by asking whether Africa's voice at Davos was present at all this year. What do you think, Temi?
I think that the Africa's voice was actually heard a lot in Davos this year. Like this is an annual program that comes up, and world leaders come over here to set the pace, possibly for the year, and try to align their own countries or, align the interest of their region. Africa was not left behind at Davos this year. The conversation, even though it was dominated by geopolitics, debt, sustainability, the future of global growth, one crucial point to note this time or this year is that the discussion about Africa took a different turn. It was a question of not how much capital Africa needs, but why so much existing capital continues to fail in Africa. And that was what dominated Davos for Africa this year.
Can you answer that question? Why does it fail?
I mean, the reality is clear. Africa does not face a shortage of capital. I mean, it just faces a shortage of appropriate financial architecture. I mean, look at what is going on in Burkina Faso right now and how funds are being used to develop the country. And, and that's a conversation that usually when I get into with my colleagues, it's always very effy because they're like, but that's not a democratically elected government, and that is a problem in its own. The financing models currently shaping investment on the continent were not designed for Africa's development. A short investment tenor, high cost of capital, and rigid risk framework. These are not good for our long-term investment, which when you look at it, that's talking about transportation, housing, agriculture, and trade. It's not the way our capital is given to us is not structured in a way that will be sustainable to us long-term. Yeah.
Now, Temi, let's talk about the two big speeches. One of them bigger than the other. Let's talk about Trump's speech, and let's focus on Mark Carney's speech. I'm wondering whether Mark Carney's speech opened a space for African priorities at Davos this year. He shut the door on a lot of other things and opened the door on cooperation. And how does Africa play when it comes to this cooperation is my wonderment.
I mean, you're right on spot. Cooperation. Countries have to cooperate with each other. Countries have to, talk with each other. Countries have to buy and sell and trade, and cooperation between countries should be a norm. We shouldn't be closing doors to any cooperation. And what Mark Carney said right there, it was opening it up. And if African leaders are, smart enough, like I know they are, we should be jumping on this trend right now. We should be jumping on collaborating. We should even collaborate with ourselves within Africa. Let's talk about that. I could take a train from Frankfurt all the way to Davos, all the way to Zurich. I could do that. I can take a train from here to Accra. I can take a train from here to, from Nigeria. I'm talking about Lagos now. I can take a train from Lagos to Accra. There are a lot of things that we need to do that I feel like Mark Carney was trying to just buttress out to say, this is the time for us to collaborate and cooperate with each other.
So Trump said, we're big and we can bully you into doing whatever we want, and you better join our coalition. Carney said, we're small and together we can make a big impact. Where does that leave African countries? Who must they at this time adhere to when it comes to cooperation?
Very, very tricky one right there.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
America, country with great with great, resources and ability to be able to foster cooperation. The truth of the matter is how the president of the United States sees cooperation. He sees that from a standpoint of, we own the world, we rule the world, you have to toe in line. But then that would work in certain sphere, certain area where corruption is ruling the day in possibly an African country, and they want to go there and make sure everything is settled and sorted for the benefit of the citizens of the country. But what I would say, what the Prime Minister of Canada is talking about is, we are small. We have to dialogue. We have to come to the table. If you have this and I can benefit from that, then let's come together. Let us do this trade by barter in a way that favors both countries, and you're not going to bully us away. No matter how we are in Africa, resources is still in our continent. All the natural resources that are needed are still in our continent, and they will need that. And you need to be able to cooperate with us and dialogue with us for you to be able to have access to those resources. Or more interestingly, we should be able to determine where we want our resources to go to. And that's also the conversation that the Prime Minister of Canada is trying to pull out here.
Exactly, but each time we try to say, okay, we want our resources to go to these friends, we sort of like get a nudge from the side saying, you sure you want to be friends with those guys? Let's take Trump, for instance, and his interest in Nigeria. We don't know exactly why he's interested, but we do know that since Africa is that table when it comes to minerals, everybody is interested in Africa. Here in Nigeria, we've got oil. We recently just said we're going to make our own and not import refined oil. So that's a big deal. That takes away petrol dollars from, America. Hence, perhaps some people say that might be why there's certain interest there. But we also have partnerships or friendships with other countries that Trump doesn't like China, You have to wonder where we now, on what side of the seesaw we must, we begin to slide toward. So what suggestions do you have for Nigeria when it comes to these partnerships? Do we go, hey, it doesn't matter who we trade with, or do we have specific considerations how the friends, the enemies of our friends could be or should be our enemies or friends? It's confusing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. Today, Africa's role in the global economy is no longer optional. It is indispensable. By the year 2050, 1 in 4 people worldwide will be African. And the continent would hold the world's largest workforce, its youngest population, and some of its most strategically significant assets. Now, when you look at critical mineral, we have that on this continent. And in Nigeria, now I'll focus on Nigeria a little bit. Nigeria had a great presence in Davos this year, which I was very impressed. And kudos to the team the Nigerian team that led that Nigerian house in Davos, together with the vice president of the country. It was beautiful. We had our own dialogue. We were able to talk and position what we look forward to seeing in Nigeria, meaning that we were able to connect policymakers, investors, and innovators to come and advance collaborative solution for Nigeria. That is great. That's where we should start from. But when you talk about these foreign powers, the foreign powers would only respect you when you respect yourself in the country. And that's very key. Do we even know what we have? Do we know that we have the youngest population workforce? Do we understand how strategically Nigeria is positioned in Africa? These are very key points that if you, there's an adage, I'm a Yoruba boy, and so there's an adage in Nigeria, what you call yourself is what people will call you. Now, if we do not respect ourselves enough and we are not positioning ourselves like we have the resources to give to these people, yeah, they're going to work on us. And that's when they're still going to be able to, how do I put it, to want to sideline us. Why should we pick who we want to sell our resources to? Mm-hmm. But of course, we will do that if we've gone to country number one and we've borrowed money and borrowed the resources and we've mortgaged the future of the country or to that country. And you now want to turn, another regime comes and wants to start selling resources to country number three. Country number one is going to tell you, hey, remember what decision, or look at what we agreed on 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And this is there. Then now we start being pawns in the hands of these people. You know, it's very critical that we do not just end the conversation in Davos, but continue use Davos as a stepping stone to continue to make that discussion.
Temi, I think no one has ever explained mortgaging the future better than you just have right now with that analogy. I want to say thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for having this conversation with us. We do hope that we make the best choice when it comes to partnerships henceforth, and that we stop this mortgaging of our future, especially when it comes to foreign partners. Thank you, Temi, Mr. Aladeokin, for joining us. Yes, and of course, we'll continue to come to you as a resource for these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.